to be about how operational improvement is just more than maximizing STP. This is all about tales from anti-money laundering. And joining us to discuss this is Kyle Hoback, who is Director of Intelligent Automation at WorkFusion. You've been one of the guys who've helped us put together today. WorkFusion is accelerating the world's transition to more meaningful work. Their powerful bots let companies deploy intelligent process automation with unrivaled speed and scale, helping reduce costs, upskill workforces, and excuse me, unlock growth. And now Kyle himself is director there, as we know. He's responsible for enabling field teams and the company's go-to-market approach, as well as leading strategic initiatives. He's got over 15 years of software and consulting experience. He's consulted at A.T. Kearney and Booz Allen Hamilton, and very passionate about helping organizations efficiently collect and utilize the data, the information and the knowledge of their organizations. Kyle, really appreciate you being with us, and of course WorkFusion's assistance with putting on today. Tell us a little bit more, then off you go.
Hi, my name is Kyle Hoback, and I'm Director of Intelligent Automation here at WorkFusion. What I'm going to talk about today is how operational improvement is more than maximizing straight-through processing, with a few examples from anti-money laundering. So $2.7 trillion. According to McKinsey, this is the level of wages in the United States that are susceptible to automation, or just about half, a little over half of the activities in the economy. This is a huge opportunity to transition people to more meaningful work. It's well underway, with software tools that include WorkFusion, amongst many others. Now, in working with many automation leaders, I've helped identify many new use cases to help expand the value across the organization. And in many of these conversations, I actually hear a very common question. What's the STP? What's the straight-through processing? Now, obviously, when automating, there's a goal to automate as much as possible, for sure. But what a focus on STP misses is that while STP can provide a glimpse of the level of automation, without context, it can be near meaningless. And this pursuit of high STP may actually risk focusing on areas that only offer minimal impact. So what if I recommended an automated use case that I could say many customers are very happy with and actually happily rely on it, but actually runs at 0 STP? You might be skeptical. But what if that automation with 0% STP actually results in a 70% reduction in manual work? You still might think I'm crazy, but these numbers are actually for a process within anti-money laundering called adverse media monitoring. And these are what's being experienced at places like Scotiabank and Deutsche Bank. So I'd actually like to have my colleague Vanya show it to you.
Before I jump into our product, the first thing I want to do is just walk through what we typically see in the current state operations at the financial institutions that we typically partner with. So when we observe this process being done at banks, typically the desktops of the analysts that are currently doing the work today look something like this, where they have to work across many different systems and many different screens to do this work. So they typically start their process in a news provider. Sometimes this is Google, sometimes this is Google News. Some of the banks that we work with use more curated data providers like Factiva or LexisNexis. And so the analyst will enter in the name of the company or the individual that they're reviewing, open up 10, 20, sometimes even 30 different articles to first of all understand, is the article even about the customer? And secondly, is there any material risk as it relates to financial crime that I need to escalate? Once they're done reviewing the articles, they take screenshots, they copy and paste the text and enter it into a Word document where they can create an audit report. And then finally, they upload their report into a shared drive or a system of record, such as a case manager. From the customers that we work with, what we typically hear as pain points are that the analysts have a really poor work experience when it comes to this process. They end up spending more time just performing information gathering that's required in their process rather than actually assessing the risk that's involved. Secondly, most of the articles they review end up being false positives, where it's not actually about their customers and there is no risk that actually needs to be reviewed. And lastly, we just hear that the process just simply takes too long. And what results from all of this is sometimes what we hear being called analyst fatigue or alert fatigue, where the analysts spend so much time just reviewing noise that it actually increases the risk of them actually missing something material in this process. And so not only are there operational efficiencies that are encountered in this adverse media monitoring process, but there's actually additional risk that gets introduced from the way that the work is currently being done today. So in the demo, what I'll walk through is how WorkFusion converts a process that looks as messy as this to something like this, where all the work is consolidated for the analysts into a single screen, and they're truly able to focus on the risk aspects of the process and not having to deal with all the copy and paste work and review of false positives. To walk through the WorkFusion solution, I will walk through a couple key aspects of the platform. So first, I'll demonstrate how to perform a negative news search in WorkFusion. Secondly, I'll walk through how the analyst can disposition adverse media. And then lastly, how you can satisfy audit and analytics requirements inside of the WorkFusion platform. So the first thing that I'll walk through is how to perform a negative news search in WorkFusion. Here I've opened up WorkFusion's workspace. As the analyst within this tasks area, I would only see the tasks that are assigned to me. So here I can navigate to see this list of tasks. And from here, to submit a name for negative news, I would click into this Submit Negative News Investigation Request. Click Accept. And at this point, all I need to do is provide one or multiple names that I want WorkFusion to do this adverse media search for. So at minimum, all I have to enter is the name, but I can also provide other demographic details about the customer to further constrain the search. So for this demo, I'll just use two examples. The first one being Ilmars Rumsevich, and the second one being a company, Amazon. I can also indicate what news provider to use and also the search language, which may be useful if your team handles multiple different languages and has a global set of customers. So at this point, I can just hit the search button. I want to highlight that this is actually just one way that you can trigger this negative news investigation process inside of WorkFusion. The other way that you can start this process is by just having WorkFusion integrated with your client lifecycle management systems or whatever system actually provides a list of names that need to be reviewed as part of this process. And at this point, what WorkFusion is doing is ingesting the list of names that the analyst provided, integrating with the news providers to actually enter in the names of the individuals or companies to get the list of articles that need to be reviewed as part of the process. Then WorkFusion processes the articles through its machine learning models to actually interpret the text, understand if there's any sort of material risk that has been identified and needs to be reviewed by the analysts. And then lastly, WorkFusion provides an investigation summary for the analyst to review. What I just demonstrated is how an analyst can perform a negative news search in WorkFusion. This enables your analysts to reduce the amount of manual touch points that they have in the adverse media monitoring process. In the next part of the demo, I'll walk through how the analysts can disposition adverse media inside of the WorkFusion platform. So once the work is being completed by WorkFusion as part of the automation, they can go back into the tasks and see what review tasks are available to them. So here they can see a list of entities that have been searched by WorkFusion, the search date, priority based on the level of risk that's been identified by WorkFusion. And they can use this to either search for a specific company or individual that they want to review, or they can sort this list based on a certain level of priority or search date to pick out exactly what customers they want to start tackling first. So let's take a look at Ilmar's Rumsevich first. So here we can see what WorkFusion was able to pull in for the individual that we typed in, named Ilmar's Rumsevich. On the left-hand side, you can see the list of articles that WorkFusion has retrieved. So there were 15 articles that were retrieved. It looks like 14 of them are marked in this high-risk category, need to be read. So WorkFusion is not only retrieving the articles, but also interpreting and analyzing the articles to identify their level of risk. And they're ordered based on the level of risk that's been identified by WorkFusion. So the articles with the highest level of risk appear first in this list and are color-coded in red. The ones that are considered medium risk are color-coded in orange, and so on. In this case, WorkFusion has identified 14 high-risk articles that need to be read and just one medium-risk article. In the middle here, WorkFusion has essentially provided a summary view for the analysts. So here they can see the most important parts of the article where there's the highest concentration of risk keywords that have been identified by WorkFusion. And on the right are the key workflow actions that the analysts can take, which are essentially to either escalate this particular entity for further investigation, and they can also provide additional keywords that contributed to their decision making. So in this case, as the analyst, instead of having to read through all 15 of these articles here, as an analyst, I can just open up the first one, read through the article to get more context on the situation. And in this case, there are clear ties between our individual, Ilmar's Rumsevich, and corruption, bribery, and money laundering. So this clearly indicates that there is financial crime risk in this situation. So I can click yes here and hit submit. Another example is with Amazon. So this is the second name that we entered into WorkFusion. In this case, WorkFusion actually did not identify any high or even medium risk articles. There were 15 articles that were pulled in, but only 2 were considered to be low risk. The other ones are categorized into this gray bucket where there's very low risk that's been identified by WorkFusion. In this case, this is a huge operational efficiency that's been introduced by WorkFusion, because this could be an example of a name that an analyst would not need to be brought into the manual review for at all. For this particular case, we could even skip this analyst review and just route it directly for audit report creation, so that the number of false positives that the analysts need to review are drastically reduced. So what I just showed now is how, as an analyst, I can disposition adverse media inside of the WorkFusion platform, so that you can improve speed while mitigating risk within your AML operations for the specific adverse media process. For the last part of the demo, what I want to walk through is how you can satisfy audit requirements and also gain real-time analytics into your operations. So to do that, I will walk through what the audit report looks like, which is essentially the output of the process once the analyst hits submit. And then I'll walk through, for an operations manager, what their view looks like, so that you can continuously monitor WorkFusion, get validation that WorkFusion is doing what you expect it to do, and also gain insights into WorkFusion's decision-making to get a better idea of the types of adverse media events that have been identified by WorkFusion. So once the analyst hits submit in that review task, what WorkFusion does is it gathers all the information that was retrieved by both the WorkFusion automation and also the decision that was made by the analyst in the process, and summarizes it all into a audit report. So this is an example of what that audit report looks like. You can clearly see the entity that was reviewed, the decision that was made, any of the risk keywords that were identified, along with the actual articles that were reviewed. And the value of this is that This is currently being done very manually by your analysts, but because WorkFusion is able to do this using automation, it's completed in a very standardized fashion. And so if there are any questions from your auditors or regulators about how this process was done and why a certain decision was made. So just to summarize what you saw today as part of this demo, we walked through how to perform a negative news search inside of WorkFusion so you can reduce the manual touch points that are involved in your adverse media process, how your analysts can disposition adverse media inside of WorkFusion so they can improve speed while mitigating risk, and then finally, audit and real-time analytics of the solution so that you can satisfy regulatory and audit requirements and gain real-time insights into your process.
So thank you, Vanya. So just to highlight this adverse media monitoring automation from a STP perspective, note that there's 4 steps: collecting the news articles, analyzing those news articles, reviewing them manually, and then generating the report. Now, the end-to-end STP is 0%, because by design, everything goes to a person. It's just now when people are working in it, instead of spending 20, 30 minutes, they're only spending 2 or 3. But if STP is really what you're after, individual steps do have it. Most articles are found automatically, although some sources do have blocks. So 80, 90, 100% there, depending on the situation. But when content is found, it's always able to be analyzed through machine learning to assess material relevancy and priority. And the report, of course, at the end is always able to be generated because the data is there. So high automation there. STP end-to-end, still 0%, but people are still 0% because people are maintaining their role. They've just now been greatly assisted by automation and other aspects of this process. So let's talk about another example, name screening alert review. Here, I won't quite scare you with that 0% only figure for STP, but the range I'm only going to kick up to about 40%, depending on the situation. Now, there's still very high impact, 40 to 60% reduction in manual work, and I'd like to have my colleague Nikki show it to you.
Hello, I'm going to talk today about name screening alert review. This is a common process that a lot of companies are doing when onboarding customers for ongoing customer due diligence. And currently the way things are being done is that your analysts are spending time inside of your screening systems, going through the list of your inputs. So the list of the names that you have to search, going through the results from your name screening systems, and then going through each of these results and validating, is it an actual hit? Is it a false positive or not? As we go through this, you'll be able to see, the person that you searched, the information that was returned as the alert, and then you can see that there's audit information, right? So based on what I'm viewing here as an analyst, I can say, yes, this is a false positive, or I can say, you know what, I need to escalate this for more research. This may be an actual hit, and so we'll want to continue on with our due diligence. And so what the goal is by using the WorkFusion platform to help eliminate the false positives that are taking place as hits within the system. This allows you to save time, as well as it allows you to then continue to grow without having to grow your team. All right, so what I'm going to talk to you today is show you a demonstration of the name screening alert review solution from WorkFusion. There's 3 main areas of the demonstration that I want to point out. The first is going to be real-time analytics that help you make informed business decisions. Alert review, so I'm going to show you how the machine learning within the solution analyzes the alerts and helps determine whether or not it's a false positive or not. And then finally, I'm going to walk through the workflow design to show you how we can do full end-to-end automation. So those are the 3 areas that I'm going to show as a part of the demonstration today. So first, I'm going to start with the real-time analytics. What I'm going to open up is the dashboard. So imagine, if you will, that you're an operations manager and you want to come in and see how your name screening alert review process is going. We can log in to the workspace. We can log into the control tower and view the dashboards that are available. Some of the custom reports that we've got specifically for name sanction screening is the ability to quickly see what type of automation rate that we're able to attain with the WorkFusion platform. So here we can see we're close to 80% automation, including you can actually see the total number of screen names over time based on date ranges. And then you can also see what type of alerts are being pulled in, including which breakdown of false positives to true positives are actually being caught within the system. And then you can also see if there's any missed. So for example, if the machine learning model was to determine that something was a false positive, but you've gone back in and you've said, you know what, no, this is an actual match, we need to continue on. You can see those details here, as well as those that you're reviewing that are actual matches. So this is the name screening analytics. They're also your standard analytics. You can actually see SLAs, how much time is being spent within the manual tasks. All of this allows you to actually make really informed business decisions. Do you have the capability to increase the volume of name screenings that you're doing? Do I need to readjust and reallocate my manual work across my teams, right? So what that allows me to do, again, I can see the results of my name screening, as well as then make some business decision based on the actual results in real time. The next thing I'm going to walk through is the kind of the meat of the solution, which is the alert review. So this is where the machine learning model is actually analyzing the results from within your name screening system and determining, is it a false positive or not? And we're going to see that inside of the workspace. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to log into the workspace. Workspace is where your analysts are going to be doing the work, whether it's reviewing results of the WorkFusion machine learning model to determine whether it's right or not, doing quality control, or actually doing any manual tasks that may be needed. It's also possible that your analysts may not even see this view, simply because we may pass the results of this view back into their workspace, that screening system that they're currently doing the work, so that they don't change anything at all. But what we do is we log into the workspace, and then I can actually see a queue of work that's lined up for me. This includes all of the manual tasks that are available, and I can quickly see that I've got 10 tasks related to the name screening alert review. I can accept this task, and what that's going to do is it's going to lock it so that me as a person is the only one doing this work. And what it opens up now is the results of the WorkFusion process. Up across the top is the name that we were actually doing the search for. And then below are all of the results from your name screening system. So these were the things that were returned. You can see how WorkFusion evaluated the actual results to see, is it a match or is it not? We can go into the details of each one. We can compare side by side and see why WorkFusion made the decision that it did. So I can actually see the areas where it matches. So in this case, we're comparing names, whether it's an exact match or a close enough match, right? Because a lot of times it's not going to be exact match. It may be a nickname, Nikki instead of Nicole, for example. We would consider that to be a matched person name. The gender, if it's a match. The date of birth, if it's a match or if it's similar. So it may be that there were, dates, numbers that were transposed. It may be a year off. Those are things that we would actually consider a match to have further investigation. And then locations, we're actually going to search not just for an exact match, right? The countries may not be the same. Are they actually in the same geographic location? Those are things that we could also consider a match. And then we determine a confidence level. The machine learning model is 100% confident that this was a false positive. As a manual worker, I can come in here and I can say, yeah, that is a false positive. So I'm going to click submit and review the next item in the list. That would allow it to either pass to your name screening system or not. And all of these actions are logged for auditing. So I can quickly see what the machine learning model determined to be a false positive or a true positive, as well as if the person agreed with it or not. So we can actually do this kind of reporting to see, how accurate the results are coming back. So again, what I just walked through was the WorkFusion alert review. We can see how the machine learning model is making decisions, how a person can come in and review those decisions so that our reviewing is not in a black box, right? And by doing this, we can actually reduce those review of false positives. Those false positives would never get kicked back to a person. We can reduce those false positives by 40%. The next thing I'm going to talk to is the workflow design. So what's actually happening in the background of all of that machine learning work, right? What we've got is an end-to-end automation flow that allows you to insert it into your existing workflow. What I'm going to open up now is the control tower. This is where we build out all of our workflows. This is where we saw the analytics previously. And this is where we can do things like scheduling these things to run. All right, so here we can see inside of the workflow. This is inside of the control tower. The workflow is what's happening in the background. So while you're actually being able to review those name screening alerts, what happens is in the background, there are a set of steps that the WorkFusion solution is doing to automate the whole process. We provide some pre-built steps out of the box so that you can quickly get up to speed with your name screening review. However, if you're using an application that we don't have an integration built for, we can customize this to actually integrate into your business process. If you want to integrate with maybe a third-party information provider to get some additional information about your named people, we can do that as well. Here we can see we've got steps where we've got rules and decision-making and logic. And if we wanted to enhance the logic or enhance what actually gets reviewed, these are things that we can customize and build out in this workflow. So again, we provide a set of steps out of the box, but it's customizable to make sure that we're meeting your needs and being able to automate your business processes so that we're not disrupting the work of your current analyst today. So again, what we do is we provide a workflow so that you can actually see end-to-end automation, integrate it into your existing system so that you're able to fully automate the process.
Thank you, Nikki. So with name screening alert review, you might get SDP if all of the alerts for a given entity can be resolved, and especially over time as you tune with more and more underlying machine learning data. But if not, there's still considerable impact because alerts within an entity can still be resolved, and many of those adding up all of those results results in value. Now that's two examples with low STP, but my goal here isn't to say never pursue, never monitor STP. I know in many other examples that actually is a strong indicator of success. My point is a little different. My point is to say that across these two and dozens of others, looking at impact metrics like reduction in manual effort and reduction in manual touch points are a better gauge of automation impact than STP, especially with these two where people are augmented and play a part in this end-to-end solution. So let me wrap it there. Intelligent automation success is more than maximizing straight-through processing. STP can be misleading as a misleading indicator without any context. So focus on impact and effort reduction. Focus on impact with effort reduction and reduction of manual touch points. Examples like adverse media monitoring and name screening alert review both have low STP, but still very high impact. Looking forward to engaging with you in other ways. My email address is kyle@workfusion.com. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kyle, and thanks to your colleagues as well for being part of that. I see you've been able to answer just a few questions for us that people have been popping in through chats and everything else as well. There's one here. I just want to bring your attention. It's probably fairly easy to answer, but it may not be. It may be how long's a piece of string. But can you give us a rough idea of the average speed the 4-step process takes to be executed, or is it really dependent?
Oh, for adverse media monitoring, yeah, the average speed, I'd have to go back. I think one of our customers gave us, I have to go back and look exactly. I think it's a minute. I think is the time they came back with as far as executing it. Now, that's the automated pieces. Now, obviously, someone has to go in and kind of do the validation, but their throughput was very, very clean. I have some stats. I can't give the customer name, but I have some stats I can look up. Whoever asked that, I can look it up after this.
Okay, ironically, the person hasn't put their name, but if that was your question, look, stick it right back into the chat facility